2 photographs. That's all the Air Force released on April 14, 2026, the B-21 Raider mid-refueling over California. The official framing was a milestone, but the overhead angle exposed what years of secrecy had concealed: blended inlets, chevron exhaust, a clamshell door engineered for stealth the B-2 never achieved. With billions committed to a bomber purpose built for great power war, what these images reveal goes far deeper than any milestone. On April 14, 2026, the Air Force released 2 high-resolution photographs that captured the B-21 Raider in the midst of aerial refueling. These images, distributed through official channels and rapidly picked up by Northrop Grumman, were not just routine publicity. Each frame was tied to a March 10th flight over Eastern California, a 5-hour, 33-minute sortie with a KC-135R tanker from the 370th Flight Test Squadron at Edwards. The side view revealed the bomber poised behind the tanker's boom, while the overhead shot exposed the upper surface and a glimpse of cockpit geometry never shown before. For the first time, the public saw the dorsal refueling receptacle in use, the aircraft's skin marked by subtle walkway lines and maintenance ports. The Air Force's decision to release these specific images, after years of strict classification, signaled a new phase: selective transparency, where proof of progress is measured in what is shown and what remains hidden. The release itself became the first undeniable evidence that the B-21 was not only flying, but already executing complex, long-duration test missions. The overhead photograph reveals features that, until now, were only the subject of speculation within the aviation community. The blended air inlets are deeply recessed, their lips hidden behind a subtle step in the fuselage, eliminating sharp edges and reducing radar returns from the front. Near the trailing edge, chevron-shaped exhaust openings create a jagged boundary, and this sawtooth pattern is designed to mix hot exhaust with cool air, lowering the infrared signature and complicating detection by heat-seeking sensors. Thin walkway markings run just aft of the cockpit, likely serving dual purposes: guiding maintenance crews and managing surface heat flow without compromising stealth. Small air data ports are positioned near the nose, tucked into the smooth, low-observable geometry. The wingtips, more angular than those of the B-2, introduce a serrated profile that further scatters radar energy. Each of these choices, visible for the first time, reflects Northrop Grumman's approach to balancing accessibility, maintainability, and low observability in a platform designed for the next era of strategic competition. The dorsal refueling system stands out as the B-21's most revealing mechanical feature in the newly released images. 2 clamshell doors form a tight seal along the bomber's upper spine, blending almost invisibly into the surrounding skin when closed. This approach is a departure from the B-2 Spirit's rotating cup mechanism, which introduced seams and complex moving parts that required extra care to maintain stealth. The clamshell design, engineered by Northrop Grumman, eliminates exposed edges and minimizes radar reflections, supporting both low observability and aerodynamic efficiency. When opened, the doors swing outward just enough to allow a tanker's boom to connect, then return to a flush position that restores the bomber's smooth profile. This solution not only reduces the need for heavy radar-absorbent coatings, but it also simplifies maintenance. Each panel can be inspected or replaced independently, shortening turnaround times between missions. The visible refinement of the refueling system is a clear sign that the B-21 program is moving beyond prototypes, focusing on the practical demands of sustained operations and long-term survivability. Congressional action in July 2025 set in motion a surge in B-21 production that would have been unthinkable a year earlier. Lawmakers approved a $4.5 billion appropriation, splitting the funds between research and development and direct procurement. The intent was clear: compress the timeline between test flights and operational squadrons, and turn a handful of prototypes into a credible fleet. Northrop Grumman, under growing scrutiny, was tasked with scaling up its manufacturing lines to meet the Air Force's demand. The contract called for 5 low-rate initial production lots, each representing a new batch of aircraft moving from concept to assembly. By 2026, the first 5 lots were already committed, covering 21 bombers and signaling that the Raider was no longer a boutique project but a foundational weapon system. With funding secured, the service pushed for rapid delivery, leaving Northrop Grumman to navigate a supply chain stretched by advanced materials, digital engineering, and the constant pressure of classified oversight. The public release of B-21 images was only the tip of a much larger transformation, one where production numbers, not prototypes, would define the next phase of America's most secretive bomber program. The arrival of the second B-21 airframe at Edwards Air Force Base in September 2025 changed the tempo of the entire program. For the first time, the combined test force could divide tasks across multiple aircraft, allowing parallel lines of testing that had been impossible with a single prototype. Northrop Grumman engineers and Air Force flight test pilots worked side by side, cross-checking results as new mission systems and stealth features were put through their paces. With two airframes, the team accelerated validation of radar-evading coatings, avionics integration, and weapons bay operations, often running simultaneous sorties to gather broader data. Edwards became the proving ground for these advances, its runways and hangars now supporting a growing fleet rather than a lone experimental jet. The focus shifted rapidly from basic airworthiness to whether the design could scale, sustain a high operations tempo, and deliver consistent results. The momentum was no longer theoretical. Each new test brought the Raider closer to operational reality. Comparisons between the B-21 Raider and its predecessor, the B-2 Spirit, often start with size and fuel capacity. The B-21's internal tanks are estimated to hold between 110,000 and 120,000 pounds of fuel, about two-thirds of the volume carried by the B-2. On paper, that might suggest a shorter range, but the equation has changed. The Raider's airframe is engineered for efficiency, using advanced aerodynamics and lighter composite materials to stretch every pound of fuel further than before. Modern high-bypass turbofan engines, optimized for subsonic cruise, allow the B-21 to achieve a longer unrefueled range than the B-2 despite carrying less fuel. This move away from sheer volume reflects a doctrinal change. Where the B-2 was designed to operate at the edge of known threats, the B-21 is built for the heart of contested airspace, where adversaries deploy layered air defenses, rapid sensor fusion, and counter-stealth radars. Survivability is now the driving factor, not just range. The Raider's mission profile calls for flexibility, including deep penetration strikes, standoff launches, and persistent presence, all in environments where the legacy fleet would be at risk. The focus is no longer on novelty or symbolic reach, but on a practical, adaptable platform designed to outlast and outmaneuver the threats of a new era. Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota stands as the gateway for the B-21 Raider's operational debut. The Air Force has set 2027 as the year the first Raider will arrive, but this does not mean a direct leap into combat readiness. The initial squadron at Ellsworth will serve as a training unit, preparing crews and maintainers before any operational bombers are assigned. This approach reflects a deliberate sequence: build proficiency, then stand up full combat capability. The Air Force has already designated Dyess Air Force Base in Texas and Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri as future B-21 bases, signaling the intent to distribute the fleet across the country's key bomber strongholds. The minimum commitment is for 100 aircraft, yet senior leaders have voiced support for a force as large as 145, depending on strategic demand and budget realities. With Ellsworth as the first institutional home, the B-21 moves from prototype status to a permanent fixture in the Air Force's force structure, shifting the focus from secrecy and development to sustained presence and readiness. The next 2 years will decide whether the B-21 Raider transforms from promise into reality. The Air Force has made its intentions clear. The Raider is not just another addition to the fleet, but the platform that will replace both the B-1 Lancer and the B-2 Spirit. Its future is tied to America's ability to deter peer adversaries across the full spectrum of conflict, from nuclear standoff to high-intensity conventional war. In this role, the B-21 is designed to penetrate modern air defenses, operate in denied airspace, and deliver both strategic and tactical effects when older bombers cannot survive. The program now faces a test that goes beyond flight hours or technical milestones. Cost and schedule discipline have become as important as stealth and range. Congressional funding has accelerated production, but each step forward brings new scrutiny. Every delay or overrun is measured not just in dollars, but in strategic credibility. The Air Force is no longer just a test authority, it is the architect of a force structure that must be ready for a contested future. The B-21's progress in the coming months will serve as a public measure of whether the United States can modernize its deterrent in time and at a scale that matches the threats ahead. As the B-21 moves from shadow to runway, its future isn't just about hardware, it's about who controls the skies when tensions spike. In 2027, the world will watch America's bet on stealth unfold in real time. The next arms race is already airborne. What happens next is not secret,